Hello and welcome to another Python tutorial. In this video, I'm going to talk about variables. At the end of this video, you will learn what does variable mean, what are they useful for, how to define them, how to consider a value for a variable, how to name a variable, and how to convert different types of variable together. Alright, look at this picture. Data is our information, any information you can think of, a date, a number, a text, anything. A variable is like a container and holds the data inside. If you need your data later, you can call that variable and you get the data you want. Variables are important concepts in Python and every programming language. Variables are our way to store information on the computer. Now let's see how we can define a variable in Python. To define a variable, we have to use an equal sign. For example, x equals 1. So, what is going on here? This assignment statement is something that often confuses people when they are moved from math to programming. An equal sign has a direction. It's an arrow. Hey Python, you've got a lot of memory. Take a little tiny piece of that memory and remember it and name it x. And stick a 1 in it. I might use it now or I'm going to use it later. This is up to me. Your job is to store that data for me. Assigning a value is also known as binding, because we are binding the value 1 to variable x. When we call x later, the computer says, hey, I know what x is. I store it somewhere in memory and I'm going to look for it. And because it has been bound to a value, it points to this value 1. Remember, this number in memory is stored as a binary representation, meaning zeros and ones. But we don't care how machines store our data. We just wanted to be able to retrieve it with print function or any other function or methods. When you define a value, the program doesn't print anything. Setting values does not have any type of response. If you want to see our variable, we can use print function. Printx says, go take whatever that spare byte of memory was and bring it back. And tell me what I put in it. Let's define another variable. Y equals 2. Now let's add these variables together. X plus y. Now the number 3 is printed in the output. An important feature of variables is that they can change. Look at this example. If we change the value of x to 5 and print x plus y, we can see that the output is 7. This means from now on the value of x is 5. So what do you think will happen if we equate x to y? This action means putting the value of y in x. Let's see the output. You see the answer is 4 because we changed the value of x and now the value of x is equal to the value of y, which means 2. And 2 plus 2 is 4. Now I'm going to tell you another way to define a variable. We can define both variables at the same time. We need to write x, y equal to 1, 2. In this way of defining variables, order of typing is important. So the value of x is 1 and the value of the variable y is 2. Now, if we print out x and y, we can see that the program tells us that the value of x is 1 and the value of y is 2. Now let's talk about the useful expression, x equal to x plus 1. So that says take whatever is in x, which is a 1, and add 1 to it, which becomes 2, and then stick it back in x. There's a shorter code that programmers typically use. Instead of writing x equal x plus 1, we can use plus equal to add a value to our variables. The value can be a number like this, or it can be another variable like this. In this expression, the value of y will be added to value of x. Now let's talk about naming variables. We can name our variable whatever we want as long as it's not a reserved word. Every programming language has what's called reserved words. Now, what do we mean by reserved words? Well, these are words that if we use these words, we must use them to mean the thing that Python expects them to mean. Another way to put that is, we can't use them elsewhere. We can't make up a variable named import. We can't make up a variable named assert. Because if Python sees assert, it means something very specific to Python. These words mean something to Python. Alright, let's go to the program. Programmers don't use x and y to name their variables. It is the wrong thing to do because after a bunch of lines of codes and defining several variables, working with them becoming confusing. Of course, you can name your variables anything you like as long as they're not from reserved words. And there is no obligation to follow any rule, but there are some methods that helps you name your variables with a better style. Be aware that the name you give to the variable must start with a letter or underline. That's a rule. Let's define two variables, my number and underscore my number. If we print those variables, we can see that we don't face any error. That means Python has accepted our variables. But if you start with certain characters, you will have problems and the program will give you an error. For example, 9 underscore my number. If we run this, we will face a syntax error. So your name must start with a letter or underline. Also, you're not allowed to use a special character in your name. For example, look at this variable. If we print that, we will encounter a syntax error again. The next important thing is Python is a case-sensitive program, which means it's sensitive to uppercase and lowercase letters. For example, if we change this capital N to a small n, we will see that there is a difference between them. You see that Python has two values for my number with capital N and my number with small n. And my number with capital N does not override my number with a small n. Well, let's look at some of the most important and commonly used Python variables. But remember, the purpose of this video is not to explain the variables in detail, and we just want to know them. Imagine a product in an online store. This product has several features like price, name, images, and many other things. Let me explain more. For example, our product is a course. This course has a price, right? Now let's define our price variable, which is a numeric type. For example, it costs $100. If we hold the mouse pointer over the variable, we see that this variable is an integer type. If the price was $99.9, we can see that now the variable is a float type. Our product has a name too, right? Name of a product is a text, so it must belong to text strings. For example, this course's name is Python. We use quotation marks to name text strings. Double quotation or single quotation, there's no difference. If we hold the mouse pointer over the variable, we see that this variable is a string type. str is an abbreviation for a string. Let's check to make sure. Print, type, product name. Let's run the program. Look at the output. It says this is a str type. Now let's check if this course is finished or not. I define a variable, name is recording. Okay? We have a variable type to show something true or false. This is Boolean. In this example, we say true. Now hold the mouse over the is recording. You see this is a Boolean type. I repeat again, Boolean means yes or no. Remember, true or false should be right with uppercase T and uppercase F. If we put true with lowercase, Python cannot recognize it as Boolean. Alright, the next variable is list, and we define them with the square brackets. For example, imagine we want to put some tags on our course page. If you don't know what tag is, it is a tool used to give the user a series of addition information. In this example, our tag can be Python, Python course, free Python course, and whatever you want. Hold the mouse over the is recording. You see this is a list. A list is a group of different variables. Do you think we can add an integer variable to these strings? Let's see. Now run the program. As you can see, there we have no errors here. So the answer is yes. We can put different types of variables into a list. The next variable we want to look at together is the dictionary. For example, we want to put our course name and course price together. I define a variable and name it course. Dictionaries are defined with curly brackets. See how I define items in the dictionary? Quotation, course price, colon, $100. We call these two parts key and values. Let's add another item. Now hold the mouse over the course. You can see that this variable is a dictionary type. Imagine we want to determine if there is a payment for this course or not. Instead of 0, we write none. But why? If you put 0 in here, it means your variable has a value that is 0. But when you use none, it means there is no value in here and this variable is empty. Let's define a new variable and set its value to none. Remember, none must be with uppercase N. Now print it. You can see the output is none. It means the variable test value has nothing in it. Now let's talk about Python being a dynamical type. Python is a dynamical type language. Let's see what this sentence means. Let's define a variable and print it. My age equals to 30, print my age. Okay, the output is 30. Now I change the value to 40. My age equal to 40, print my age. As you can see, the output is 30 and 40. As I said before, we can change the value of a variable, but in Python language, we can change the type of a variable as well. What does that mean? That means we can change this myAge variable from integer to a string. You see that myAge is changed to a string. When we say a language is a dynamical type, means your variable type can change at any moment. So in Python, we are able to change our variable type whenever we want. In this example, I can change myAge type to a dictionary or a list. For more information, languages like C++ or C# are static types. In static type languages, when you define a variable type, you cannot change it later. For this reason, they are called static types. Thank you for watching this video. If you are interested in Python tutorials, you can subscribe to my channel and see other videos.